Hello and welcome. I am your host and dungeon master, Cranio Dad, and I am the dungeon master for our Friday night game of Harlequin's Requital. I'm going a little bit early tonight because, to be honest, I haven't been feeling that well. I've been really tired, and I have some stuff that I need to get taken care of this evening. So I wanted to go live and talk for a little bit about what happened last week. So let's dive on in. So last week was episode number 5, and I want to start right out of the gate and talk about how impressed I am with how this party is traversing through Horde of the Dragon Queen. I've spoken at length, I think, almost ad nauseum, about how I've run this campaign a few times and it always seems to fall apart, and most of that is almost completely on my shoulders. However, this time, maybe it's my experience of dungeon mastering for the last 3 years or 4 years or however long, as well as being a little bit more well read and having a better understanding of what I'm supposed to do, as well as the party being more on top of things. And we've had a lot of trial and error with some game, but they are moving at a really, really good pace. If you go to our YouTube channel and look at the 100 and some odd episodes prior that I was all audio podcasts, it's horrible. There's a lot of rules that are wrong. There's a lot that I do wrong, but it kind of expresses some of the pain that this campaign seems to cause a lot of dungeon masters. But this time I feel really good about it. I feel like there's a lot that just seems to be clicking. I think a lot of that is definitely on the party, and hopefully my better understanding of not just the game in general, the rules and whatnot, but what I can do and should do as a dungeon master has something to do with that. So I'm super stoked with how well they are doing, that they are progressing as fast as they are. Like I said, last week was episode number 5. We're playing about 3-hour-long sessions, and they are now about, we did some look, and they are about halfway through the Dragon Hatchery, which is chapter 3 of Horde of the Dragon Queen. By room, they are about halfway through. By number of encounters and the intensity of said encounters, and what I could throw at them depending on how fast I think they're moving, they're somewhere between a third and a half as well. If I don't throw anything else at them, they will make it through in about another session and a half. There's some other factors external to the game that are at play with that. But let's talk about what happened. Let's kind of break down the episode and walk through it. And at the end, stay tuned, folks, because I'm announcing some changes to the giveaways that I think are kind of exciting, that I hope you find exciting as well, and I hope kind of serve the purpose that I'm trying to serve with them. I've got some stuff over here to my left that I'm looking forward to showing you, that we'll be talking about on the streams, but we'll get there. So, the party starts out with a dream sequence. Now, first, we actually start out with a whole bunch of technical issues. It seems like the RVA Dungeons and Dragons Twitch streaming groups have had their fair share of technical glitches over the last week or so, but it looks like as we're working through them, we're all getting through them fairly well. But we've had them on Wednesdays. We had them again on Friday. That caused me to have to basically stop the stream and restart it because I lost all my cameras. But we had some technical issues, and I think that may have affected the audio quality. I gave as much as I could a listen, but I started out with 2 dream sequences. I wanted to cover what happened with Akira while he was recovering from exhaustion and damage and injury, and he found out that what he picked up and put on is the Amulet of a Jade Dragon, which is something that I created specifically for this campaign. And it's on D&D Beyond. It's an amulet that kind of helps lower level monks experience more of what they're going to have at their disposal at higher level. It is specifically geared for levels 1, 2, and 3 of monk. If in fact once the monk goes on to level 4, some crazy bad shit happens. So Jonathan is already well aware, and hopefully he is reminding himself that before they level, he needs to take that amulet off, or else there's a high risk that something bad could happen. Not just to him, but to the entire party. Because I believe that where there is great fortune, there's also great risk. But I wanted, what it does is it kind of works like a Ring of Spell storing. which for those of you that don't play D&D is a ring that a caster can cast spells into, and they cast from the ring instead of using a spell slot. So what I've done is I've given an amulet that allows for the monk to kind of focus 2 key points, which is their main point system that allows Jonathan to do a lot of the really crazy things. He can do Step of the Wind. There's a lot of strikes and stuff like that, and punches and reactions that he can burn a key in order to do. But I felt like the key points were a little bit low, but I feel like it levels out really quickly. And I wanted him to have a couple more key points at his disposal, just to see what he could do with that, and to make sure that he gets a really good experience, to make sure that he wants to continue down the monk path. So he had a dream sequence where he was introduced to the amulet of the Jade Dragon, and he understood a little bit of its history, and he became attuned to it. And then there was a dream sequence with Quobrudlum that involved being interrupted by some of the people that he has been under the tutelage of through school, and they left him with a tome that basically allows him to cast any spell that he has stored into it, regardless of level, as a cantrip. And it becomes his new spell book. It can be an arcane focus, so it kind of eliminates some of the, oh, well, let me hold on to my arcane focus and read from my spell book and now find the components. It gets rid of most of that. And it gives him a little push. And it was the way to make sure that he understood not just the fact that what he was having wasn't a dream, because when I spoke with Steven about this ahead of game, he did mention the fact that he believes that Quobrudlum would not believe anything that I would tell him in a dream would be a dream unless he had proof that it wasn't. So I figured, why not give him something kind of cool that I don't think is too OP for the game, because I can work with that. And it kind of, because of the enormity of the item at the level that he is, it's one of those things that it kind of maybe turned some of the gears for him to realize, A, that it wasn't a dream because he actually had a physical object that manifested because of the dream. But also that he has some support, and that they know that it's going to be severe. So we'll see how that plays out, because I know that with the events that surrounded Bella's death, that he was looking for a reason to stay, and that's something him and I also spoke about out of game. And I wanted to ensure that Quobrudlum had reasons to stay, because I don't think it was finished, and it's not by far. So I dealt with those two. I try to deal with dream sequences to where they're short, sweet, descriptive, to the point, and may pull on some emotional heartstrings a little bit from here, from time to time. So if my audio wasn't great on that, I apologize. We are continuing to make things better. I've got a lot of improvements in this room that'll be taking place still over the next 7 to 10 days. So it's a work in progress. It's what we do. We're trying to get you guys the content and give you the experience of being here at the table. So they met with Leosin, who then explained to them that he's been following, and that the Dragon Cult is working on something. And he asked them to go look at a cave where he feels like the eggs are being stored and the treasure is being stored. And they agreed. They went on their way. I missed something, so I have to find a way to tie that back in, about how Leosin is actually going to go meet with Othanar Furlum, which ties into another one of the characters' backstories, but I'll find a way to tie that in. That's my job. That's what I get to do. So they journeyed to the cave, to the encampment, found it deserted, and there they met a druid who happened to be the owl that they saw with Leosin. And this was a guest. This is Megan. She plays Lindariel on the Wednesday night D&D campaign on Gidgewitch's channel that I play Nightbreeze on. And Josh plays the ever-lovable Gus. And Keller plays Dan. And that's where we run through the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. So if you're wanting to watch me play versus DM, and to watch Steven DM versus play, then definitely check it out on Wednesdays. And there's never enough Gus in the world, I don't think. And that's just how Gus is. So actually, I see Gus and Nightbreeze becoming really good friends, but that's not a conversation for this stream. That's a conversation for whenever or if ever Gidgewitch wants to do something similar, or if we decide to do interviews or things along those lines. So anyway, they enter the cave, and they're immediately taken on by they basically find themselves in combat. And the things that I found interesting were the fact that the druid immediately shifted over to bear shape, which I think was an excellent call. But it was that moment where she shifted, and if you go back and watch the stream, it's not too far into it. It's about maybe 20 minutes in. There's a moment on her face where she realizes, wait a second, they can't understand me. And I was like, you're right. Unless you have telepathy, or they can speak with animals, they can't understand you. And so she immediately went into playing it off, and trying to communicate what she was trying to do, which I appreciate, because one of the things that we always have to watch out for is metagaming. Now, the people at the table really don't do that, at least this table, not that I've noticed, because I'm pretty quick to snipe metagaming. And what metagaming is where you take knowledge that you, as a person, have, because you've heard something that your player would not have. And there's a lot of different ways to deal with metagaming. The easiest one that I have is that if I realize somebody's metagaming, I'm changing what they know. Because as the narrator of this story, or the more, I guess, verbose wording, which is, I am your character as God's God, I can make things change. I can make something stronger, harder, hit faster. I can make more of them appear. I can have things sitting in the wings. So if you find that players are metagaming, it's always good just to remind them not to metagame. But if it continues and you need to put a stop to it, there's a lot of tools at the DM's disposal to put a stop to it without being a jerk. It's one of those things that it happens. But anyway, she wasn't metagaming. She was trying to say, look, I know that you all know that I now see these things, or I now smell these things, or I sense these things, and I need to convey to you as a player what I know so that you now know it, because I can't just tell you. Because one of the things that we often do is, if Susanna asks a question and I give her an answer in character, then we assume that yes, most fruitful Yoshi, a TPK will always solve everything besides having people at the table when I stream. So, it's always assumed that over travel or over time that it's communicated because they all speak common. But when a person's in an animal form, that makes things a little bit more complex. But anyway, so they dealt with the encounter pretty quickly. They figured things out. They realized that they needed to communicate a little bit more. Then they found the trap stairs. And that's actually one of my more favorite traps in the first part of this campaign, because it's at this point that they're finally going into a dungeon. They're finally entering a cave system. They're going to be enclosed. There's, as far as they know, one way in, one way out. They just lost a party member, and they're not checking for traps. And it's the very fast reminder, hey, there's traps. In this world, there are these things that people do that are devious, that may cause you harm because they don't want you to do what you're doing. And it's just interesting to see. I think that all in all, that the entirety of Chapter 3 from Horde of the Dragon Queen does a really excellent job of introducing what it means to be doing a dungeon crawl. It has the feel, it has the look, it has the, you don't know what's around every corner. Yeah, true, Bella would have checked, but, he decided to, throw Meteor Swarm to save the party. So, he did one good thing. Now he's not there to check for traps. But, it does a really good job. And I think the characters are going to see that more and more as they progress. And they dealt with the violet fungus, I think, in a pretty good way. They realized that they were rooted. They can't chase after them. They move rather slow. They have a little bit of reach. Let's get out of their way and just leave them be. Of course, Jonathan had to get some hits in, but I think that's where his downfall began, a little bit. Then they walked into the cavern with the Sturges, not the Sturgeons, as you will hear them called a few times on stream, which is funny to me. But they ran into the cavern with the Sturges, and the Druid, Megan, she completely understood what they were and where they were, and that they needed to be quiet and careful. And she tried, but then she rolled a critical fail on her stealth check, which caused her to cause noise, which brought the encounter into play. Now, the most brilliant thing that I think could have happened, and it was completely warranted and completely well played, was the fog cloud that Quabrudlum, played by Steven, cast. They already had an idea of where they wanted to go. They already knew what they should be doing. And so he cast Fog Cloud as a way to protect them, because his character and he both knew that these creatures can't attack me as easily if they can't see me. Unfortunately, I play Fog Cloud a little bit differently. It does have disadvantage on attacks, but it also has disadvantage on moves if you're not going to the location that you've never been before. And it's a perception roll, and it's pretty easy when you're in this kind of a situation. The DC that I was using hovered between 10 or 12, depending on where the character wanted to go. If they wanted to, make a beeline for the corridor, that it was probably a 10. If they wanted to try to stealthily move around, then I would raise up to 12, which is pretty standard as a mid-level DC. Really fun math, by the way, in case anybody was ever wondering. For every number on a D20, it's a 5% chance, because 20 goes into 100 5 times. So for a D10, yeah, it's a 50% chance that you're going to pass. But a D12 is, it's a 40% chance that you're going to pass. It's just easy numbers that every digit is a 5% increment on the percentage of rolls. Now, that does not go for people like Josh, who routinely hover around 8 and 9s on his rolls. We're going to figure that out, but I don't know what it is. Dice cup something, I don't know. But a 10's pretty standard. It means you just got to roll above average. And that caused a lot of hilarity. It also caused a lot of the Sturge to impact each other, and they only have 2 hit points. So they went down pretty easy once they were actually hit. And the force damage of 2 Sturge flying into each other, I equated to being punched. So that was a 2 or 3 damage. So that was just going to happen. And over a very, very long time, Jonathan he went unconscious, and he failed a death save. And then he almost went unconscious 2 other times. Susanna fell down a cliff and saw an encounter that I didn't want to trigger just yet. So she and Jonathan both know something, and they have a pretty good idea of what the sounds were at the very end of the episode last week. But they know now that there's a lot more going on. I will say Jonathan almost found himself in a whole bunch more trouble that would have invited a new laundry list of issues for the party at one point when he completely veered off. But that was just the luck of the dice, and we had to play it as it was. The characters then, finally collecting themselves down at the bottom of the stairs, found the trap curtain. Yet again, another excellent trap. They already had the trap stairs that collapsed underneath them, and I told them it was a trap. Then they work their way through, and they get to this curtain, and nobody checks for traps. And they try to go through, and there's a bunch of little tiny poisonous barbs. Now, Steven rolled just enough to where he didn't take any damage, nor did the poison affect him. But I gave him the information about the barbs as a, by the way, this is a trapped curtain. And they entered essentially what's a butchery for some of the going-ons in this cavern. They made their way in. They had a pretty intense moment where they were listening to some snarling and stomping and grinding of body against stone at the top of the stairs for about 10 minutes or so. They also kind of are starting to make a connection about their location and the mark that Langros, the dragon, was on Bella, then transferred to Susanna. So they're starting to make some connections there, and that's where we'll pick up next week. So my overall thoughts are, I think they did an excellent job in, with the technical issues eating up some of our time. In about 2.5 hours, they knocked out half of a chapter. I do know, and I have no problem, and I have told them that at the end of this chapter, they will be level 4. So they'll be able to level up in about a week or 2. I haven't decided what I'm going to do if this goes for an episode and a half. We might take a quick break and let everybody level really fast on that break for like 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and they'll be at that level. Or we could just do it after the episode. I don't think they're going to run into too much at the beginning of chapter 4 that they would need to be forced for. I could find a way to tie it all together. But I'm very happy with how well they're moving. I think that the loss of Bella showed itself in quite a few ways. As Josh already mentioned, you know, Bella would have checked for traps. You know, that's one of the things Josh is really on top of, is checking for traps, because that's, you know, he knows that I'm going to throw a bunch of crazy crap at them. And nobody was checking for traps. It did allow for us to introduce a new character, as mentioned by Cranium Mom. The change in dynamics, you know, having a new person. And I love the comments about how Megan's character seemed like Ariel. I don't know if that's what she was going for. I was busy trying to deal with all the technical issues on this side of the screen. However, that's exactly what it sounded like to me, and it was perfectly spot on for how she has built this character. I think it was amazing, and I loved how that changed the way the rest of the group was going. It also is showing, Bella's loss is showing itself in how they are reacting to combat. I think that in the grand scheme of things, Bella was usually the one who was in the front, followed by Susanna or Jonathan, usually Susanna, and then Jonathan, and then Steven was in the back, which is what he should be doing, because he's got the AoE in the distance. But now Jonathan has been quicker to move up front, and Susanna is starting to pace that. Ideally, I'd like to see some changes with how they handle combat, but that's completely up to them. I think there's a healthier way for them to handle combat, and knowing what Josh has rolled up as a new character, because he will be back, is going to be really interesting to see how that impacts the party as well. It's going to be interesting to see what all happens, just even in short term. Now, I know Josh was planning on coming back this week, but I've left it up to him if he wants to come back this week or next. He is recovering from some shoulder surgery, and I want to make sure that he is 100% comfortable when he comes back to the table, versus, you know, not being able to sit, or not being comfortable in general. So that's just one of those things that, you know, I want to make sure that he's all right when he comes back to the table, and I can play and fold him in wherever I need to. But his character has been built. There's a pretty awesome backstory, and it's going to be interesting to see what that does with the party. So upcoming next week, or this week, there is more within the Dragon Hatchery. There's a lot of stuff that they have yet to even begin to see. But I think the Dragon Hatchery also does a really good job of not just exposing the idea of this is Dungeons and Dragons, folks, there's traps, but also that there's something bigger going on. He is Gus 2.0, potentially, but potentially. Your new character could be Gus 2.0. But there's a lot going on inside this cavern that are going to start to show the party about what, you know, the Dragon Cult has going on, and why this may be a little bit more important than most people think. This is where, for lack of a better term, as the DM, I begin to turn the screws on the players when it comes to this being a world-changing event. There are scenarios built into this campaign that the players fail. And if they fail, that eliminates a lot of things that I would like to do and be able to run down the line. It also means that in the universe of game that I play in, we are no longer attached to the Wednesday campaign. It also, I mean, there's a laundry list of things that this could mean. And that's not just in the characters dying. That eliminates a lot of things, or changes a lot of things. If once we get done with both this one and where is it at? Once we get done with the entire campaign, that you know, I would have to always take into consideration, because I believe in congruency. We could just play a reset button to where I grab, you know, Princes of Apocalypse or something, and we just run that one fresh with new characters. But I like the idea of how this could be a world-changing event to where it eliminates entire storylines. because the storylines are predicated on the fact that the players need to do what they are supposed to do at the end. And whether that is to let Tiamat win or lose, they'll find out when they get there. So with that, we've been going on for about 30 minutes. I want to talk a little bit about the giveaways that we're going to be doing. So we've got the race to 100 right down below me. And that's how many followers I'm racing to try to get to. Right now we are at, according to this, we're at 17, but according to this, we're at 19. So I got to look into that. But anyway, I decided I wanted to not wait until we get to 100 followers to do something. Seeing that we're at 19 means I really need to take a look, because what I had already prepared to do was to do something every time we cross the threshold of 20. So over here to my left, I have 4 brand new, still in plastic, Dungeons and Dragons starter sets. Now, this is the very first thing that I bought when I started running Dungeons and Dragons a few years ago. This is the Lost Mines of Phandalin, or Phandalin, or however you want to say it. It comes with a set of dice. It comes with some pre-made character sheets. It comes with the shortened version of the rule book, so you don't need to go out and purchase the entire player's handbook. And it comes with the Lost Mines storyline. It's enough to get your characters or your players through 1 through 5. I think it's a really good storyline. There's a lot of dynamics, and it folds into almost every other story that I've got on my shelf that Wizards of the Coast has published. So every time that we hit the 20 mark for a follower, so at 20, at 40, at 60, right, I'm going to start a giveaway on that stream that if you're a follower and you're watching the stream, you'll be able to join. It's a free raffle. I will send one of these out to a lucky winner. Now, you can only win one of these starter sets, but I encourage you still to join, because my goal will be to, as we get further and further along, to have other things that you could win at each of these milestones. And they're going to be small little things. But this is my way of, if you like watching us and you want to try it at your own home game, this is an unbelievably great place to start. So this means that when we get to 100 followers, I haven't been showing it off enough because it's heavy. I already have the amazing, incredible, the special edition cover and art set for the Player's Handbook, Monsters Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Dungeon Master screen. Now, this is the only copy I have in the house. It is still wrapped in plastic. I don't get to open this. I get to send this to one of you guys when we reach 100 followers. Same rule will apply. We will probably give away at least the starter set the night that we hit 100 followers, and we will make an announcement for the game to let everybody have a fair shot at winning that amazing prize. There are other things and other ideas we have along the way that we want to just kind of give back to you guys just for hanging out with us for your 2 to 5 hours a week and watching us play and make a bunch of mistakes and laugh. And we show you Dungeons and Dragons After Dark is kind of what we are starting to go with. So we'll be talking more about this on Friday as well. So I'm going to look into why it's saying 19 and 17 for followers, and I'll have that resolved by Friday. But if we hit 20 followers next week, I'll do a giveaway. I want to set it up tonight or maybe tomorrow, because I've got some other things to do tonight. But I do also want to say that I have figured out a way to add another player to this table. Right now that seat is filled by Megan, and it's going to be hers as long as she would like. I do know that she is unable to play, not this week, but next week. So I've been changing my layout because that's what my life is. So you guys will be able to see some new stuff, a slightly different layout to where we can have 5 people at the table and a DM starting next week. Or actually starting this week, providing that a few things go well. But if not, I always have a fallback. But with that, if there's any questions in chat, now's a good time to get it going, because I'm only going to do this for about another 5 or so minutes, and then I am calling it a night here. But I still got stuff to do here. So again, to recap, we're going to be doing the giveaways at 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. At everything prior to the 100, we'll be giving away 1 starter set. More items to be added the further along we go. I'm thinking things like nice dice sets, Maybe we can do some miniatures or some other things. I've got a lot of ideas that I just want to be able to give away to our followers, and maybe we'll add one thing each time. So like if we do a dice set, we do a starter set and then a starter set and a dice set, then we'll do a starter set, a dice set, and something else, and then we'll do those three things and something else. But anyway, we'll get there. I'm super stoked to see what they do this week. Like I said, there's a lot of potential that they will be able to finish out Chapter 3 this week, that they'll be able to make it through to fruition at the end of the night, which means that they'll get to level, and then we'll start Chapter 4, which is, I think, called On the Road, which is where the campaign starts to really get interesting. But I was super stoked with the way that they have been running. I'm really excited to see where they're going to be. Don't see any questions in chat, but I appreciate those of you that are here. Please, if you aren't following us, feel free to follow us now. How do I think the players are growing as a team? Fantastic question, to be honest. But let me answer that question. So I think that these players were literally thrown together for a reason. They have a couple different reasons why they originally traveled to Greenest, and now they're forming a party out of it. I think that as a team, they're starting to rely on one another with a little bit more trust, and that's something that only time will provide. Over time, they'll have their inside jokes, they'll have, their funny stories, they'll have the "hey, do you remember that one time when" moments that they'll be able to have at a tavern, and that's what ultimately makes the party even greater. But this is all about not just, it's funny, it's not about them just trying to literally save the world. It's also about them growing as a party. It's about them not just, as players, but as people. These four minus Megan have been playing together for a little while, off and on for the last few months. But they've played different characters. So this is a chance for them to play characters that they've created and to get to introduce what they want for those characters through them at the table with people that they know. So they've already had some of that trust, but to try to make it make sense for the characters is something that each of them individually have spoken about. What would my character do in this situation? Or I don't know how my character would handle this. I was thinking about this thing that we did the other night, and I think that my character would have done it differently. And to me, those are the moments I get to say, awesome, what do you want to do next time? Like, what have you learned from this, and how can we make that part of your story? Because it's part of your story now. Was your player maybe feeling intimidated? Was your player, was your character maybe tipsy, or whatever? Let's figure out what caused you to do this and how you can react because of it. Because ultimately, the situations the players find themselves in are ones that they're putting themselves in, besides the times that I've had to railroad them. But it's about growing not just as players at the table, but people. As this, it's all over the place. So I think that they're doing extremely well. Again, this is predicated on months worth of play together. This is time that they've spent, trying to hone the craft of rolling dice, or understanding attacks, or how does magic work, what does ranged mean, what does finesse mean for a weapon, what does dex mean, what does a dex save, why is everybody groan when the DM says Constitution saving throw? These are things that they're already learning and have learned, but now they're starting to put it into practice. This is, the preseason is over. That's why this is season 1, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of growth from the people at the table throughout the rest of the campaign. I think that's what I would hope. I would hope that it's not by the end of next week that they're all chummy, everything's great, they've got great battle plans, and that they know exactly what each person is going to do regardless of the situation they face, because they know that person so well. I hope that we find things out at the very end of the next book that they have to work through and figure out. But it's one of those things that as the players continue to grow, the story will grow. The impact of the story will grow. The things I'm able to do for them and with them will grow. The things I'm being able to, the situations they're going to find themselves in are going to get more and more difficult. So, can't be friends with Eloise. She's unfriendable. We'll see. But you know, the situations that they find themselves in are the ones that they do to themselves, and how they get out of it is based on the impact that they've been, the connections they've been able to grow together over this time, not just as people at the table rolling dice and having drinks, but also as players in the game, in the campaign, whom they are moving, whom I'm narrating for. You know, the story, that the epic that is being written, it's going through this effect as well. So over time, it's only going to get stronger. But so far, I think they're doing great. I think that, you know, they jumped into it at a pretty good clip, and I think there's been a little bit of catch up. And I think, like, for example, when explained about Bella's death, I think Jonathan played it off perfectly well. He's like, "Oh wait, he's dead." I'm like, yeah, he's died. Oh. Okay, well, what are we doing today? You know, because in relativity, he's only known him for not even a 10-day. You know, he's only known him for like 4 or 5 days, and so his loss isn't that big to him. Now, longer down the line, then it becomes bigger. You know, if they're in some giant fight with literally a giant, and they're level 16 characters, and they've been playing together for a couple of years, having somebody die is going to be critical. That's, you know, where the stream might go dark for an hour. You know, we'll play that as we get there. We'll figure that out. But you know, it's going to be interesting to see. So I think that Bella's death, if anything, is going to be a catalyst to the growth for the party. But if they're not careful, it will also be their downfall. But we'll see what I mean by that down the line. So yeah, really fast recap, because we've got a couple more people that have joined us. You know, again, at 20 followers, I'm going to give away starter sets for every 20 followers. On the stream that we have the followers, unless it's at the very end of the stream. And then at 100, we'll be giving away a starter set and the special edition cover. You know, thank you again for hanging out with me tonight. We've been live now for just over 40 minutes. I've been discussing episode 5 from Friday. Again, if you want to watch me play and Steven DM, check out Gidgewitch's channel. He's in chat now. We play on Wednesdays. We usually start around 8, barring technical issues. And we usually play until whenever. We've had a couple late nights, and that's okay by me, because I love playing. And we'll be back again on Friday. We'll be picking up episode 6. So season 1, episode 6, the Dragon Hatchery part 2. So thank you again so much. I will see you guys later this week, and tell your friends, give us a follow, and help us, you know, start giving away some of this stuff so I can get it off my shelves, and we can make this game even better. All right, y'all, take it easy.